Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. This is another live Q&A. Welcome to everyone. If it's your first time, if you're on the live or you're rewatching, welcome. If anyone has any questions or topics you'd like me to discuss, feel free to comment below. Good morning, Victor. How you doing today? Good morning, Jose. Good afternoon. Welcome. So I've had a few people within the past 3 days or so, good amount of people actually messaging me about where they can donate and make donations. So I just made a PayPal. If anyone would like to donate or do so, I will leave the link in the descriptions. It's paypal.com/psychedelicmirror. Welcome everyone. Amalea, good afternoon. Arc Sauce, thoughts on SR? What's SR? Good morning, Spiritual Light Force. Good morning. Welcome, Ananda. Welcome, Corey. So I would just like to read this passage, or this quote to kick us off. This is Logan 22, and it comes from the Gospel of Thomas. So this is Jesus or Yeshua's disciples speaking to him, and so they ask him, then shall we, being spiritually newly begotten ones, attain the sovereignty? And so they're asking him, after we've done what you've said, do we attain your sovereignty? Do we attain Christ consciousness? And so this is what Jesus or Yeshua's response to his disciples were. And this proves to you, this is why Logan 22 was removed from the Bible and it was rewritten again, because the New Testament changes words in this quote that significantly or drastically change the meaning to this entire message. But Yeshua replied, when you make the inner as the outer, and the outer as the inner, and the above as the below, and when you make the male and female into a single unity, so that the male will not merely be masculine, and the female merely feminine, and when you make human eyes to serve as God's eye, and a human hand to serve as God's hand, and a human foot to serve as God's foot, and a human image to serve as the divine image, then you shall attain the sovereignty. What that passage is called is when the two become one. When the two become one. I stress this quote a lot because there's a lot of people, especially in today's current situation, that are under the belief that there's a transhumanism agenda. We're trying to make the men more women-like and the women more men-like. But this is not the case. As all my videos consistently say, we're not human. So what I teach is the non-dual. aspect. So non-dual would be just that, when the two become one. When you realize you are not merely masculine, you are not merely feminine. There's obviously a source in between both of those. And the male, female, masculine, feminine principle is not just about the sexes of us as this race. It is the converging and diverging force of the universe. It is the breath force of the entire cosmos, in and out. Converging and diverging force, positive and negative. But where you have in and out, there is only one breath. Whether it's flowing this direction or that direction, there's only one breath. Likewise with ourselves. There's two of us appearing before each other. There's only one presence. We are the presence, not what we've attached ourselves to through mind, memory, and senses. Jose says, has your understanding on solipsism changed since you first started creating content? Wow, that's a good question, Jose. That shows you watched my video on solipsism too. Wow, that's a good question. I haven't been asked that yet. Good question. I would have to say yes and no. Since I've put out that video, I think it's been about 1.5 years. So my message is the same, right? It's all one, it's all us, we're one being, same thing. I think I've come more to a peaceful and loving way of thinking of solipsism versus people hearing solipsism and thinking it's all me, I'm alone here, everyone's a fragment of my imagination. The mind can really dirty solipsism, and not just dirty it, but it can scare you, it can terrify you with these concepts, so I'd say I'm at more of a peace with the concept of solipsism today. I understand it beyond words, right? Whereas I think before I more so understood it through words. Whereas now I understand without the words needed. But yes, solipsism is an inevitable fact. And this is why science and scientists are missing what's staring them in the face, right? They are dissecting the universe, the above and the below, looking into the microscopic atom and the macrocosmic universe. And they're both trying to show you the same thing, that there is a repeating pattern here. And that pattern repeats all the way back into yourself, this body, what you think to be. But you think you're just this. But that's why the same patterns that repeat here are coded in the above and below, the within and without, the atoms and the stars and planets and everything of this universe. Everything points us back to ourself. But that's a part of the journey, is getting lost along the way. So AJ says, or I'm sorry, here's another question. Is it true that our brain makes decisions first and then consciousness follows it by getting electromagnetic signal from it? Yes, it's true. So if you've ever looked into the scientific detail of a baseball player hitting a baseball, they say that the brain doesn't process that they've actually hit the ball until 2 or 3 seconds after they've hit the ball. And it's just like what you're talking about. Your decision making, you aren't caught up with your choice until a few seconds after you've made that choice. And that's where I get into free will and control. It's scary to just rip the Band-Aid off and tell someone who's beginning this, there is no control, there is no free will. This will cause someone to disengage, to run away, to say, forget that, there is free will, there is control. So you have to be very careful on how you say these things, because I've been saying it for a long time. There's no control, no free will. But I see the response in people when you say these things. You have to understand what I'm saying beyond the words. Control is a concept created from a belief you have of yourself. This belief you have of yourself, this belief you believe yourself to be, has conceived, has created the concept of control. And if you have not met yourself deeper than that belief, you will believe that this control it has created is what you are and what you are doing. But I would like to share a quote from Buddha himself, because we all love the Buddha. We all love sharing his statue, sharing his pictures. So let's share some of his words this morning. And I'm sorry, it's the afternoon and I'm saying morning because I'm on the overnight shift this whole week, so I'm kind of backwards. It's still morning for me because I'm just waking up, so excuse me. So Buddha said, mere suffering exists, but no sufferer is found. The deeds are, but no doer of the deed is there. Nirvana is, but not the man that enters it. The path is, but no traveler on it is seen. What a beautiful man. What a beautiful man. Mere suffering exists, but no sufferer is found. The deeds are, but no doer of the deed is there. Nirvana is, but not the man that enters it. The path is, but no traveler on it is seen. So this is where I talk about, so what Buddha says, the deeds are, but no doer of the deed is there. Spirituality has become an act of doing. And that's why I've been telling people in my more recent videos to make people aware. Spirituality, as of today, is the most trending religion to date because the superstitions have surpassed that of religions. And if you rewinded the clock 5 years ago, everyone in the spiritual community ridiculed those in religion for these very superstitions. But as of today, these spiritual superstitions have surpassed that of the religious. So what spirituality is becoming is a doing game. The ego must do something to improve or perfect this experience, this presence, this being. But spirituality is not about doing. It is about finding the non-doer within yourself. You are not what's doing anything, and that's why you will never be fulfilled through your doings. Once you have done this and done that, you could have reached the end of the earth. You could have done the most extraordinary thing. You won't be satisfied. You won't be able to rest. It's not enough. You must do more and more and more, because doing is a disease. It is an illness, if you want to call it that. It is an addiction in itself. Because when you think about it, all the addictions that we're addicted to require a doing. And you can only be that doer when you attach to what is doing, to who is doing. So spirituality is not about doing anything to improve the quality of your life. Spirituality is about true acceptance. Daring to let go long enough just so you can see what would happen with no influence or control here. Because at one point of your life, you had that achieved. You were a child. And a child doesn't need control or influence to better improve this experience. A child's in the highest state. They're always excited. They don't know why, but there's a natural high in a child. They're always excited. They can't wait to go here or go there, or just be, have fun. Because there is no ultimate doer within you. You are not this doer. And that's what this moment and all doings are trying to lead you back to, is this moment. So for instance, when you get high, when you climax, have an orgasm, these feelings are attempting to bring you back to this moment. That feeling of being high is your natural state through this moment. You are this moment, and you can always be in that high state. Not in a forced way, not to where you're trying to fool yourself and you're just smiling all the time and faking it. You can honestly be in a naturally high state all the time, genuinely, and be at peace, be happy. Because spirituality is about acceptance, discovering that which is beyond your control, discovering that which needs no perfection. Right within your very heart, you can discover that which is already perfect. It is this moment. That's what all your doings are about. They're tempting to lead you back to this moment. This moment is where all change transpires through, but the moment itself is changeless. The moment reveals you to yourself. The moment reveals your true face, which is that of no face, because as I said, all change transpires through the moment, which means if this is your face, it will be changed an infinite amount of times over through the changeless moment. You are this moment. Never born, never died. Never came, never went. The moment is. So whether this form is here or not, the presence, the moment, always is. When one form disintegrates, another is born. Same moment, same presence. And that's why these new years bring about no change. They won't change anything for you. The only thing different is the arrangement of numbers. But remember, time is an illusion. It's a concept. So it's not actually 2022. This is a concept. We're not actually human. Human is a concept. So I'm sorry, I'll get back to the questions. I went too deep into that question. Joe with the Flow says, should I take the vaccine? So that's a controversial topic right there. Never on my videos will you hear me answer that question for someone else, because that's not what I'm here to do. I'm not going to tell anyone to do or not do. I can tell you what feels right for me. I can tell you that I am going to be getting it as a requirement of my job. which is no problem, no disturbance to me. I've said it since the beginning, you are inevitable. But I tell everyone, do what you think is best going to preserve what you think to be yourself. So if you think this to be yourself and you want to better preserve this, and you think by better preserving this is not getting it or getting it, do that. Do what feels right for you. So AJ, there is nothing beyond source, if you will. Source is the beyond. And even Buddha used that term. The Buddha didn't use words like heaven or hell. Buddha didn't use words like God. He never used God. He used the word the beyond. And to him, the beyond represented what we call God. But there is no source beyond source itself. Source is the beyond. And that's why so many are afraid to move in that direction. Once you start going into the beyond, you start losing recognition of yourself, because you're going beyond your familiarity with yourself. You're going beyond your comfort and boundary that you have put forth for yourself. And it's when you are on this path that all the pieces that you are not will be shed. That is the metaphorical ego death that leads you into what you truly are. The timeless, the presence. But no, there's nothing beyond source. Source is the beyond. Exactly, Victor. If you think you are the body, do whatever you have to protect it. My message is, I'm not this body. So again, I'm not answering that for anybody. I'm sharing my message, sharing my experience. Danny, so how do I achieve this bliss at all times? Bliss, honestly, is only a consequence of ultimate peace within yourself. I would say, how can you be in bliss all the time? Leave behind the collective community. Leave behind the collective, leave behind all the groups and all the collective people gathering, and go into yourself. Embark on this journey on your own. Be not concerned about what my religion is or his religion is, or what you do or she does. Go into the deepest parts of yourself and let that be the forefront of your focus. Forget about government, forget about conspiracies, forget about everything. Just for this while you're on your journey. You can return to that later if you wish. But inevitably, as you unmask yourself, you will realize there never was government. There never was these things. That's why I encourage people, put that aside. Let it go just for a little. Go within yourself first. Like before we riot or before we go do anything crazy, stop. Look within yourself one last time before you go out and physically grab the screen to your own consciousness and attempt to win by fighting in this fashion. It's deadly. And when you think of it in this aspect, you grabbing the screen to your own consciousness and trying to win in that way, you are your worst enemy. You are what's getting in your own way, and you don't even realize it because of the great misconception you have of yourself. And that's the Alice in Wonderland quote, you know, you are a terribly real thing in a terribly false world. And that's just it. We are terribly real, but our idea of ourselves is terribly false. Explain free will. So Gabriella, that's been a good topic. I've had a lot of people asking for this. So I can explain free will like this. Free will is the shadow to control. And behind that shadow of control is the ego. The only being that wants to keep this concept we have of control and free will alive is the ego itself. The separately driven entity from Source itself. Now hear me out. Source is what you are. Now Source has coded the game, has written the game, has decided the game, has created the game, has thought of the game, everything. Meditation, people who are meditating are attempting to connect to something, and they don't know what it is, but we're trying to connect to something better. And what you're trying to connect to is that source, that intelligence that is in control, that has all knowing, all knowledge. But the problem is when you're in the source, when you're as source, you must let go. When you are in flow, in sync with source, you need no control. Control is taken care of for you. It's like that song, Row Your Boat Gently Down the Stream. Trust you are in good hands. You can rest now. You can just be. You can enjoy. This experience, the sun, the moon, the stars, the cosmos, everything of this universe is self-regulating. It heals itself, it fixes itself. It's a cycle in its own self. This needs no perfection here. This needs no influence from yourself. So what control must you need over this? Everything is already taken care of. Everything already is. The highest intelligence is running through your very veins. But we lose sight of that intelligence because a new intelligence has taken place within us, and that is the ego. It's the separately driven entity from what is driving the entire thing. And so what we're saying is when I'm in control, when my influence, when my free will is involved, now my experience is the best or is better. But it's not. Because that's why we're in this cycle of, well, let me meditate. Once I meditate, now I am in the highest state with source. Now my experience is at the highest. Now I'm in sync with source. So what we're basically saying is we want to be connected to source through meditation, but we don't want it to have that power over us. We don't want to surrender that control and give it to what we're calling source, which means we're still not acknowledging that source is our being. You don't need a connection to source. You don't need to meditate to get to source. That is what's keeping you from being source. The journey. You're making source a mission to get there and say, once I get there, now I'm in the highest state. Now I'm in the highest intelligence. Once I meditate, now I'm there. But the trick of it is you are always there. You're there now. There's no meditation needed. Meditation is that source, is that presence. And this is why Buddha said he never left meditation. He never came out of meditation because Buddha remained grounded in his presence, in the presence. So, while he was speaking with people, while he was teaching, while he was sleeping, he said to people he was in meditation. When he was asleep, when he was walking, when he was sitting down, when he was teaching or giving a lecture, he was in meditation because he knew he was in presence. He was not Siddhartha, his name, his birth name, he was Buddha. He was Source. And that's what a Buddha is, an awakened man. He awakened from Siddhartha. Siddhartha is the ego, the separately driven entity. That's what led Buddha into his misery, into his suffering, was the separately driven entity. What led Siddhartha into the forest for 7 years to meditate? That's what Buddha did. He was so miserable in his ego as Siddhartha. And he was born into wealth. He was born from a king. His dad was a king. So this shows you money means nothing. He was born into a family of wealth. A king for a father. But it goes back to what Buddha talks about. Nirvana is, but not the man that enters it. Not the man that enters it, because again, there is no one entering Source. You are Source, but you're making it a connection. You're making it a mission, an effort to have to get there. Never make Source a place, because then you have to travel or commute to this place to get there. There is right in your heart. And that's why I say right within your very heart, you can discover that which is already perfect, that which is already beautiful beyond your words, beyond your comprehension, so that you can realize everything is okay, everything is divine, it's beautiful. But make no mistake, you are Source, always. Whether you're consciously aware of it or not, whether you're convincing yourself you must get there or not, you're always Source, tricking yourself that you're not, because we play small, because our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate, it's that we're powerful beyond measure. So again, we think we want control. We think we want our hand involved in everything. We want free will and control to control everything here and all of it. We even think that we could improve and make this better, more perfect. But that's why all we're doing is looping back around to ourselves. We think we're creating something new. We think we're creating an artificial machine, but all we're doing is looping back around to ourselves. We wanted to know how the human race got here. You're going to bite your own tail soon, because you're going to realize you've never created an artificial machine. You are answering your own question, how you got here. We are in a loop. We wanted to know, right? We wanted to know the answers, how we got here. We wanted to know what put us here. You're witnessing it. This is the golden era. The singularity has already made its appearance. The singularity is already here for those with clear seeing. The self is already here. But that's what artificial intelligence is going to do. It's going to further show people who are more deeper into the dream of themselves. It's going to uproot them from that dream. It's going to disturb their comfort. It's going to shake them. But it'll always remind them, you're so much more. Let go. This is a good question. So, subscriber, that's the name of the person. They said, even if you know you're not really human in all that you say, don't you still want to preserve this experience as long as you can/want? That's why you don't run in front of a bus. So no vax too. That's very good. Very good. Very good. So when I say I know that I'm not really human, and I don't need to preserve this, I've even let all my loved ones know. I've put a status out letting my loved ones know if the time ever came that I needed some life-saving surgery or I was in a coma or something on life support, do nothing to try and prevent or to try and disrupt my process. I trust in the cosmic flow of everything. And again, I'm not trying to preserve this because I'm in Source. There's no connection needed with Source. I am that I am. I don't see life as on and off because I teach the non-dual, and life and death is dual. So there is only eternal life. If you want to go beyond the words of life and death, there must be a word in the middle to represent what these two actually are. And it's what you are, the core of your being, that creates life and death. We think life and death is reality, but it's not, because what's real does not change, and what changes is not real. Life and death are only brought about because of reality, because of what does not change, because of that being, that presence. That is why we know reality. That is why we know life and death. But once you've gone beyond the dual aspect of on and off, and you've gotten to the core of who you are, you realize there's nothing to preserve here. Like Terence McKenna says, you know, all these people are trying to hold on. Little do they know, there's nothing to hold on to. And the beautiful thing is, you don't need to hold on. You can let go at any moment. To discover the beyond, as we just talked about. That beyond. That is where everything we're seeking lies, right there. The beyond. The unfamiliar territory. The uncomfortable territory. It's like they say in the Avengers Infinity War. Everything you seek lies right in front of you, always. As does what you fear. Fear is the mirror. And that's why I got 2 Anubis tattoos tattooed on me. Fear is the final frontier. It is the final mirror. And for 98% of us, death is that final fear, that final mirror, keeping you from yourself, from looking beyond. But yeah, there is nothing you can preserve. You are eternal life. You're not artificial and you're not organic. You are the eternal being itself. And another video that could better answer your question probably is Alan Watts. Every incarnation is this one. What he talks about in that video is it doesn't matter. You could die today and birth again tomorrow in a green being or in a blue being in a different head. You could have 10 tentacles sticking out of your head. It doesn't matter what you look like. Every incarnation is this one, is what Alan Watts talks about in that video. And that video is gold. Because he talks about, doesn't matter the form, the name, the person you think to be, the place you think to be, every incarnation is this one. So that's why I tell people, why try and preserve or hold on to one experience, one thing, when this is what you have from now unto forever. This is what you are. You are this. There's no need to hold on. This comes or this goes, another is brought about. You are this. No need to preserve it. Everything you know and love through this experience is never lost. It may be temporarily lost. But in that beyond is where everything connects as one being. And when you know yourself, you're in touch with everything. "5D is a myth. 5D and 3D are myths. I get what they represent, but again, the spiritual community has surpassed the superstitions of religion. So the spiritual community and this collective belief, from what I've read, are under the belief that all these people as a collective, we're going to agree to something, and then we're going to just physically witness things moving in the sky and the world changing and shifting into this new place of love and light and heaven on earth because everyone's agreeing to this one frequency or vibration. And all that does, from my opinion, is stunt your own growth, because you're waiting for everyone to get on board. You're waiting for all of us. You can be in bliss all the time. I get what the 5D represents. It represents their source, like being at the top, just like the crown chakra. But that's why I say never make there a place, because once you get there, can you rest? Are you satisfied? Are you at peace? So remember, this journey is not a race to get there. And there is not a place. It's right within your very heart. So you don't need to get there. You don't need to go back there. Look within your heart. There is here. And to answer the question, Aja said, should people do DMT? That's another question I won't answer for anyone else, because I wouldn't dare try and do that for someone else. That requires great research into what you're taking. I would advise you look into who would be assisting you, who would be facilitating you in your DMT trip. DMT is the most potent, is the most strong, and is the most sacred medicine you will ever be able to take in this lifetime, in this experience. The people who ask, if I can't handle weed, should I take psychedelics? Should I take DMT? These are people who have no actual idea of what they're asking. And I'm trying to stress this because it's not a joke, it's not a game. There have been many suicides. I have lost many friends through psychedelics, through people who simply can't handle or don't know how to comprehend or integrate what they've been shown into this existence. It can be maddening. And I will say this, with DMT, I can see how people say it's a roll of the dice. It's a 50-50 shot. It's a 50-50 shot of that thin line between genius and insanity that they talk about. DMT can either put you on the brink of a mental breakdown, like going into an insane asylum, or it can put you on the path of pure enlightenment and awakening. But you will see exactly what I mean. That thin line of genius and insanity, you'll be on it when you do DMT, and you'll fully understand. It's so maddening because it's showing you so much. But it's so maddening to try and take in. Not just take in, but accept that your entire life and everything you thought you knew is just a belief. It's just a thought. And what are thoughts? Thoughts are connected to the breath, right? So once the breath ceases to exist, ceases to breathe, so do your thoughts. So if you exist in your thoughts, if you know yourself only as deep as thought, you perish. And death is a tragedy for you, because once the breath stops, so does the thought of yourself. But my experience through DMT, it saved my life, so I would never talk bad about it, but I stress to people, because of all the suicides that have happened through DMT, I stress to people that it's a very sacred thing. This is not some game where people think, oh, I'm gonna see some trippy stuff, or I'm gonna see some crazy things, or I'm gonna trip out. Not at all what it is. It will be the most sacred journey you've ever had with yourself. It'll be the most real you've ever gotten with yourself. And I can promise you, 9 times out of 10, when you come out of DMT, there will be an overwhelming feeling of emotion. For me personally, I was in tears. Couldn't stop crying. And I wasn't sad. I was so thankful. It was so beautiful. I was so happy to be shown who I was. Because for me, I had been Baker acted prior to this. This is what started my awakening. But I had been Baker acted twice before I ever touched DMT, before I ever did any psychedelics. I was Baker acted twice. Because it's not that I wanted to die. Didn't know how to live. And I wanted to know these questions that burned so deep in my head. And I knew there would never be peace until I answered these questions. So one of my friends told me about DMT and told me about how you can have an ego death and all these things. Well, you're telling that to somebody who just got Baker acted twice. I tried killing myself twice. So now you're telling me that I can kill myself without actually doing it. So for me at the time, I'm like, hell yeah. This is great. Let's do it. I have no fear of death. I want it. Welcome it. Why? Because I wanted to be at peace. Again, I didn't actually want to die. I didn't want to end. I just wanted to be brought to peace. Peace with myself. And I can tell you, DMT is a point of no return. That's another reason it's so scary. Once you take it, you can't throw up and force it out of your body. You can't go to the hospital and then force it out of you. You're at a point of no return. So whatever it's going to show you, you must endure. And that's where I say it can either make you or break you. But there can't be resistance in this medicine. There can't be. So for me, basically, when you're deciding to take DMT, you're acknowledging that in this moment, you are taking this to surrender yourself, to surrender your control, to surrender all the beliefs you have. So if you're not ready to surrender or let go, I wouldn't mess with it. It is a point of no return. The same person that goes into DMT never comes back out. I can tell you that. You die in the medicine and it shows you what you truly are. And that's how I explain these videos for all the people who always ask, how do you just speak and speak and speak and speak and speak and, just flow? Or how do you know all these things? I'm still in the medicine. I've never left the medicine. That is the ultimate point of DMT. You are the medicine. So when I hear friends tell me, I need to go back there to get the download again, or I need to go back there I try and remind them, you realize that presence you're calling there is right here. All the medicine is doing is removing the concepts you have of yourself so that you can see. This is the presence right here. Right here is the presence it's showing you there. You're not actually going to a place, and you're not actually going outside of a body. It's showing you quite opposite. On the contrary, you've never been a body. You've never been inside of a body. And the place you think to be real or physical doesn't exist. That's all right, Victor, because we're all on our own path, and this is not for everyone to understand, you know? Religion has Satan to blame for their experience. Religion has Satan to point the finger at. And now spirituality has the government to point the finger at, to blame for their experience. But with my teaching of non-duality, there's nowhere to turn and point the finger. There is nowhere you can look and point the finger. This teaching requires you to look within yourself, to show you that you are enough. You are powerful enough to be what's doing all this. And that's why this isn't for everyone, brother. So don't be discouraged. Be proud of yourself for being here. This is not for everyone. It's hard work having to look within yourself, not looking to place blame. That's showing self-awareness. And I apologize. I know I'm getting behind on the questions, but I have more questions than I've ever had, so I'm trying to get to them one at a time. I apologize. I know I'm way behind here. Carrie says, is the story of Christ representative of all of us? God becoming man, dying to our flesh/ego, re-emerging as a spiritually awakened being. One, please touch on this. All right, Carrie. So in like six videos I did back, I think I called it Jesus' message and why it's so important today, now. I do agree Jesus or Yeshua, whichever you call him, he was a real man, but there's obviously been a lot of stories that have changed about his story, that has created this religion off of his testimony, if you will. He found God within himself the same way Buddha did. Buddha found God within himself and had communion with him through himself, right? But what turned Jesus into a whole religion in itself was the part where they changed the story and say that he died and rose again. He became immortal. He faced death and rose through God. So what that does is it proposed the idea that one man has achieved this and has already achieved it for the rest of us. None of us ever need to die again. None of us ever need to face death again, aka face ourselves again. We can believe in this one man who has done it, who has achieved it, and that one and done is it. That's it. We'll just believe in his experience and never attempt to experience this through ourselves. One and done. But his story actually is very representative to what is happening today. And in that video I talk about Jesus' message. I talk about how his ultimate message to the Roman Empire was that you are God itself, but it threatened their religion that they were selling to people. So they murdered him, they tortured him, they abused him. And hear me out, because again, this is going to go back into my video. Jesus' message and why it's important today. His only message to these people who were torturing him and beating him was that you are God. He loved them. It didn't matter what they did to him. And he didn't try fighting because he knew who he was. He knew they could lash his body and whip it and torture the body, but he was never the body. That's what an awakening is. He knew who he was. So his ultimate message, through what he displayed to us, was surrenderance. Here is a man who, obviously, if we saw somebody right now being whipped, tortured, beaten, our hearts would hurt for them. We would want to help this person. But he didn't want your help. He didn't want you to come help him. He didn't want you to come save him. He wanted you to pay attention to what he was doing. He was leading by an example. He knew this would anger people watching this, hearing about this. But what did he do? He surrendered. Symbolic to today. Everyone who is ready to fight the government are no different than those Romans who will tear your damn head off if you even speak against what they believe. I've watched videos of these riots that have happened in 2021. No matter what the topic was, it doesn't matter. The point is the riot, angry people. And I've watched them not torture, but abuse, bully, trample on people. People who were peaceful. People who simply held a sign that went against what they were saying. So what you're witnessing today is the Roman Empire. Pretty much that attitude is already here. Nobody wants to surrender because everyone's saying, I will not die a slave. They cannot enslave me. But no one has taken a step back to say, who is they? Who are they? Who am I? Rather. The reason his message is so important today is because we need people that are leading by example in this message today. Surrenderance. I could have a government or army men or whoever, I could have them take me from my home right now and not even turn this live video off. They could handcuff me right on this live video, take me out of my home, and put me wherever they want. Guantanamo Bay, they could fucking torture me till whatever. It would not change my teaching. It would not change what I teach. My attitude would not change, because I know many people would say then, oh, well, you see, look what happened to you. Now I bet you're singing a different tune. No, I'm not. I'm singing this all the way home. Whether I have a tank in my face, whether there's just this. Message stays the same. Know thyself. Know yourself first. I'm met with a lot of hostility when I tell people to surrender to the government, and people, just like, again, that Roman attitude. So you want me just to stick the shot in my arm and just surrender and submit and be a slave or be this or be that? And it's all hostility. It's all negative. And again, I understand the thinking. We're a terribly real thing in a terribly false world. We're mistaking ourselves for these senses and this mind body. So that's why we're so eagerly guarding and protecting the mind body, the senses, what we're trying to prolong or keep alive, because this mind body and these senses are how we've been established, and that's all we know ourselves as. So it's very obvious, if you want to threaten my mind body, my senses, because putting a shot into, a liquid or a fluid into your body, that affects the mind body, that affects the senses. Whether it's good or bad, it still affects them. And if you are them, there's your boundary, there's your limitation. You are stuck right there. And again, I'm not here to tell anyone what to do. I'm here to make you think. Go within yourself. But my point is this, comparing Jesus' message to today. If there was a riot against the government tomorrow, and I came out of my home, and I held a sign saying, "Peace, stop fighting," totally against what this rioting people were saying. And I told them to surrender. Do you know what would happen to my ass? Do you know what they would do to me? I'll let you fill in the blanks. Use your imagination. But my point is, we are just as barbaric as the Roman Empire that tortured this man, and all he was trying to tell you was surrender. If the same scenario were to happen tomorrow, you would bludgeon someone to death who told you surrender. So has anything changed? Have we evolved? Exactly. I'm so sorry I can't pronounce your name because it looks like it's in Russian or something. I'm so sorry, brother. But this beautiful brother here said, Christ was the same human being as we are and rose from the dead like a zombie. Exactly. And I'm sorry, I wish I could pronounce your name. Better yet, I wish I could speak Russian. That would be even better. Danny said, what is the highest piece of information that you hold? The highest piece of information that I hold has brought me to my inner peace. It's something that once you have, there's no happening in life that can take this from you. Obviously, death and loss and these things, are a tragedy and they're unexpected. But my point is, there's nothing. That's the deepest and greatest information I hold. There's nothing that can happen, that can be removed, that can be taken from me, from my life, that could ever take away me knowing myself. And just like I talked about, if a government agency or the FBI or the army wanted to kick my door in, cuff me, take me wherever, shoot me, you can never take away the knowing I have of myself. It's immovable. That is my most sacred information. I've searched my whole life for it, and it was not easy. It was Baker acted twice because of it. I wasn't crazy. Everyone in the hospital knew I didn't belong there, obviously. Wasn't out of my mind. I wasn't hitting my head against a wall. I didn't want to harm myself. I was frustrated. I wanted to know my questions. I wanted to know the answers. And I was so tired of pretending with the whole world. So tired of pretending. That's where I was led. But it's beautiful, because that's what you'll find is even when you're at your worst, one day you will be able to explain why that was. One day you will be able to reason with why you ever had to endure or experience such a low vibration, such a scary feeling, such a haunting feeling, such haunting thoughts. It's all for a reason. It's all to get you along your journey. To know such highs, you must know such lows. That's a good question. I'm gonna try and pronounce your name, so forgive me if I get it wrong. Rhoda Lien said, "How can you know yourself truly? Your ego and brain is constantly telling you who you are and who you are not." So that's a good question, by the way. So this is where, for people with that question, I would advise you to go directly into language, the word, the spoken word that's referred to in the Bible. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. The Word was with you. In the beginning, the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And you'll notice in the Bible how they stress that. And the Word was God. Was God. So in the beginning, there was the Word, and the Word was God, was with God. So language that you use to speak and communicate through, those words, word, was with God. And then at the end of that passage it says, was God, and it was God. It was God, but was is past tense. And the reason it's past tense is because the minute you speak the first word, you are no longer what we're calling God, what we're calling source. And the reason being is words are what shape our entire experience. So I've made a video about this too, saying words are empty. That's the name of the video. Words are empty. Words are containers, basically, is the metaphor I use. Words are containers. They're just like water. Words can take shape as anything because the words are not the objects you believe them to be. There's something in your mind that brings life to these words, that fills these words, these containers, to shape them into your experience. So if you notice a child in their 2, 3, and 4, they have that video on the TV for them where it holds up objects. Apple, orange, the letter A, B. It holds up objects and it tells you the word of the object. So early on, at an early age, that is how we learn. We learn that the object is the word and nothing else. You're not seeing the object, you're seeing the word. So the best way to remain grounded in yourself and who you are and knowing who you are not is always remembering and remaining grounded in the fact that words are empty. They contain nothing. This is what the spoon boy in the Matrix means when he says there is no spoon. Do not try and bend the spoon, that is impossible. Instead, only try and realize the truth. There is no spoon. And when he says there is no spoon, he's talking about the word. There is no word. You believe this object to be the spoon, the word. But there is no spoon. There is no word as the object. This is why he says, instead only realize the truth. There is no spoon. Then you'll see that it's not the spoon bending. It is only yourself. What this means is everything mirrors your own self-awareness. Every object you believe to be the word mirrors your self-awareness. So when your self-awareness grows, likewise does the object, do the words that you believe in. So it's just like Earth. Earth is the most common example I use because there are so many theories of Earth. There are so many shapes of Earth. There are so many discussions and topics of what the Earth is. Right? But that's the inevitability of it. If Earth was absolute, if it was real, if it was one thing, we would all see the one thing and it would never change. There would never be different shapes, different theories, different topics, ever. But there is, and that's something that we must inevitably face. Why does the Earth change? How are there many shapes? How am I standing right next to you and you're under a full conviction that this is flat, or it's round, or it's triangular, whatever you want it to be? How could you be standing right next to me, sharing the same space, and we're looking at different things? We're seeing different things here. Because Don't try and bend the earth. That's impossible. Instead, only realize the truth. There is no earth. Then you'll see that it's not the earth that changes, it is only yourself. So we think this object we've called the earth to be the word. So when we look at this objective reality, we instantly associate it with the word earth, world, place, position in space. This is where I am. Now I have sense of direction. Now I know where I'm going. Now I can better establish who I am. So everything changes in accordance to your own self-awareness. To remember who you are is to always go beyond word, beyond concept, beyond thought. You're not thought. You are the source to thoughts. Something comes before your thoughts. You see, Tyler is a thought. To be Tyler is a thought. But something comes before the thought of Tyler. And it's the presence. Presence. I must be present. You must be present before Tyler comes about. So when you can remain grounded in presence as presence, realize your words are empty. They can change over and over again in accordance to your self-awareness. You purify the mind by that simple acknowledgement. Words are empty. And another thing, you've miraculously been given 3 eyes. And this is a big part of it. Acknowledging what you are actually seeing with. You have 2 eyes to look and 1 that sees. Which means you're not seeing anything with these eyes. These project what you believe. 2 eyes to look at what you believe, at what you are seeing. This is what you are seeing with. Seeing is believing. So someone's asking, AJ asked, an enlightened body dies and a normal body dies. What is the difference? There is no difference. There is no difference because there is no person. There is no person as either one. There is just the presence, the self through both. Both expressions. There is no difference. Any value created would be subjective. You put value into people. And that's what the whole function of a guru is to do. A guru is not a guru, and you will never hear a real guru call themselves a guru. It is for the person, the disciple that's coming to them, to acknowledge them as guru, as master, as teacher. Because it's subjective. You are seeing a guru or a teacher role in this person, so you are choosing to acknowledge them as such. But their job is to reveal to you. They're not a teacher, they're not a guru. You are your own guru. You are what you seek. And everything you're subjecting or projecting into me is yourself the whole time. And that's the guru's job and function, is to show you to yourself. And maybe stir you up along the way, right? They can't not have some fun. meaning they'll have you persist in your madness and your thoughts of yourself for a little bit, but inevitably they'll lead you back to yourself. They will show you that you have what you seek. So I take signs from the universe, as me communicating with myself, my highest self. I don't believe that language exists. Language is just made up to communicate between each other, right? But language has no validity. The word has no validity. There's no realness in our word or language. So I don't think the highest, the supreme source, whatever you'd call it, God, communicates and through language or through things. It communicates through phenomenon and action. So I take signs from the universe as me communicating with myself. And it's rare, personally, for me that I ask my higher self any questions, because I don't separate self into higher, lower self. I don't get tangled up in the words. I just believe in the one self. I am that one self. I am what's driving the entirety, right? But it's very rare I ever ask like a question or for guidance or anything. I have such an overflow of just trust and self, and such a peace, so. Yeah, it's hard to speak on those things with DMT, because I've heard of the stories of like people seeing entities on DMT, and I've heard people talk about seeing machine elves, and all type of aliens and beings. And this is where I start to feel left out, because I hear this all the time from people who have done DMT. They were talking to angels or to Arcturians or all type of beings, but through my many times, back then, I don't do psychedelics anymore, but my use of it back then, I have never seen an entity. I have never seen a form in DMT. I have never seen anything other than the void, the self. I think maybe what we're most looking for comes to the forefront of our experience. So again, we're all looking for different things. I know, again, I went in there ready to die because I wanted to know God. So God was the forefront of my experience. It was what the entire thing was about. I didn't have to make it through elves or get to hear or talk to this person. God was my focus. God was it. I didn't have interest in anything else. I wanted to know God. I wanted to be led straight to source. Let's skip all the scenic routes and all that. Let's get to source. And again, it kind of makes me feel left out, because I hear more people talking about the entities and the machine elves and things like that, and I've never seen them. I've never experienced them. So as far as entities and things like that through DMT, I can't speak on them because I've never experienced them. I've been shown many things through DMT, but a form is not one. There was the formlessness, there was the void, the presence, where there's nothing to be seen, yet the presence of everything is there. It's there. Very hard to explain, but yeah, there's no place, there's no person, there's no thing. There is an immovable presence that you are brought to. And at least for me, I had to make the connection that this presence is my own. I'm not in the grace of God. I'm not meeting God. I'm meeting myself for the first time. And like I said, when I came out, I had tears, snot, just freaking, just crying my eyes out. It's just so beautiful, so powerful, so overwhelming, you know. I mourn the loss of myself, the ego death. I mourn the loss of myself for maybe 5-10 minutes. And after that, I couldn't stop laughing, because it's like, wait a minute, you didn't just die though, you're not gone. Wait, what were you just mourning? You're still here. Wait a minute. And you just have to keep, wait a minute. And you're just led to the greatest laugh with yourself. I didn't die. There was no ego death. I was shown to myself. I met myself for the first time. Never born, never died. Oh. I'm gonna wrap up this video. I like to keep them about an hour long. I'm going into an hour and 20 now, so thank you to everybody who's engaged with me on this video. Thank you to everyone who has been here present. I hope this video has been useful in some form or fashion. If these videos do resonate with you, I'd appreciate it if you help me share them. It's so hard getting, you know, content and videos out these days, so I try not to do much sharing, because I don't want to push or impose on people. But if they resonate with you and you'd like to share them, please feel free to do so. It helps me out a million. And again, I'll have my PayPal information in the comment section once this video is up. The live videos do take about 2-3 hours to get put on my page, so have no worries about that. If you can't find it, it'll be up in, you know, by tonight for sure. And again, thank you to everyone who's been on here. It was a good video, good live, good engagement. So I'll see you tomorrow, hopefully, and everyone be blessed.